Well, speaking of education, John, BuzzFeed is where I get all of my information. And this article came across the old desk here, and I thought you would like it, as I know you don't look at a lot of BuzzFeed
I'm
articles.
a huge BuzzFeed fan.
Well, here's the headline. With what money? Millennials and Gen Z are sharing the money tips they think are super outdated considering the fact we're all super broke. Very relatable, very empathetic on BuzzFeed's part. I see why this is so popular. So I want to read a few and get your commentary, if you will. Here's one. Someone said, anytime someone tells me to save money, I automatically roll my eyes. I would love to be able to have a savings of some kind, but with inflation twerking all over the place, it's impossible, especially when my son keeps growing out of his clothes every other month. Even thrift store prices are getting ridiculous. What do you think, John?
I think this is a case of the great Brene Brown says, whatever you go looking for in the world, you're sure to find. And so sometimes instead of staring at the reality, the totality of our reality, and that I realize that rhymes and I should probably be an artist, a poet. If you got to look at all of your reality, including where you live, what you're doing for a living, what is reality for you right now. I wish I had all this extra time with my kids, but right now we're broke and I can't afford that time right now because I got to go get another job. And it's heartbreaking conversations people haven't had. Then somebody says, hey, you need to pay your bills. You need to work to save some money. It's easy to laser in on that one little word, save, and blow up all of the truth and wisdom in that sentiment because that particular thing doesn't apply to you in this particular hard season that you're in. It's an easy way to avoid reality. And so everyone should be saving money, and not everybody can right now. Both of those things are true. And so if that's not you right now, don't roll your eyes, exhale, and say, I'm going to work really hard and get there, right?
That's good. And that's why our baby steps are one at a time, focused intensity.
Yeah.
So we only want you to save $1,000 when you get started.
Yes.
No more, because it is overwhelming.
And you're going to have to sell some stuff. It's going to be super uncomfortable, not fun. Anybody who goes into this thing that's going to be a blast is missed the point completely. It's not going to be.
All right, here's another one. Someone said, sell your car and get a cheaper, older one. This is terrible advice. Repairs and unreliable transportation are a financial nightmare.
And again, that's somebody saw the word cheaper, older one, the words cheaper, older one, and they immediately went to, it falls apart and you can't have a cheaper nonsense.
In their mind, they're picturing like a 1970s Oldsmobile.
Right. Or they're picturing a something that's not even real. They're not picturing anything. They're just trying to pull apart an argument, right? What this is saying is, let me say this in a different way. You don't deserve, there's no cosmic right to a new car. There's no cosmic right to the car of your dreams. That's why they call it of your dreams, because it's not real. It's not a real thing.
Well, new cars are an all-time high. And so what they're saying is, hey, instead of driving something older that's going to catch on fire on the interstate because someone drove it before me, I'm going to drive a brand new $45,000 car under the guise of safety and reliability.
Right.
Instead of, I want it because it makes me feel good and I want to look good.
That's right. And this argument is particularly challenging when someone brings it to you or me because both of us are not car people.
We've always driven used cars.
We always drive
day.
old used cars. I bought my first new car, I think ever, the other day.
Wow. At what age?
At 45. And so there we go. And I made it, right? And so all that to say is, like, man, you can have a great, wonderful, wonderful, great life with a old, cheaper used car.
Absolutely. And there's no such thing as, well, it's going to have way more repairs and it's unreliable. Do an inspection. Get a Honda or your favorite
The
Toyota.
Toyotas.
And it'll
What did
run
you used to
forever.
call them?
Toyota. I do it like Yoda from Star Wars, and James gets mad at me.
Well, so does
Sorry.
America.
It's my Arabic accent coming out, James. Sorry. All right, here's one for you, John. I'm so sick of hearing that I should buy a house right now just to have one. Maybe that was a great idea a few years ago, but houses in my area are currently selling for at least double, maybe even triple what they were 3 years ago. Also, along with home ownership comes the regular and irregular costs that can range from basic utilities to needing a whole new roof. It's just not realistic or even logical. This one, I actually agree with.
Well,
That everyone needs a house and you should be in a house, and why aren't you in a house? And renting's a sin.
But I don't like the first sentence. I've
So sick
never
of
heard
hearing.
somebody say, you need a house just to have one. Nobody says that. That is twisting an argument to make it sound a little bit off kilter, a little bit dumb, so that then you can pull it apart. Just be honest. A lot of people, particularly our parents' age, say, if you rent something, you're just throwing your money away. I've heard that multiple times from people a generation or two ahead of me.
Well-meaning people.
Exactly. And in their world, that was accurate. In our world, it's not. Renting is a wise thing. I've rented at every stage of my life. Every time me and my wife move and me and my kids move, we rent until we get set right. So just like you said, you're exactly right. It's not logical or realistic for a lot of people right now.
Yeah.
Cool. Make peace with it. Smile.
And that's okay. Now, should it be a long-term goal? I think it's a great goal to have long-term.
Mm-hmm.
Does it need to happen tomorrow? No. There's great flexibility. There's great wisdom. You're offloading the risk onto someone else, and you're paying for the privilege of all of that.
That's right.
That's a good one. All right. Have 3 to 6 months worth of expenses in your account in case of emergency. That's great. But when I can barely make all my bills each month, what money am I supposed to be saving? So they agree with the advice that you should have a savings account, an emergency fund, but they're angry that people are recommending this as if it's something they can just go do.
And the conversations I've had around this very issue over my career, most of the people in my career that I've hired, it was their first or second job. They were new to the job world. And so there was an expectation that now that I've got this degree and this position at this university, this degree with this many years of experience, the world's just going to hand me this much money. And unfortunately, often this is what this job paid. And so it was less about where's all this money I'm supposed to be saving and more about sitting back and going, okay, I wanted to do this career and I wanted to make this much money. Right now, the world isn't paying this much money for this career. I need to have a hard conversation with, am I going to reduce how much I spend? Am I going to get a new job? Am I going to move? Right? All incredibly hard conversations. But the idea that I went and did a thing, I got this education, I got this training, and I want to live here, and I want to work there, and I want to make this much money. Those three things are not automatic, and they often don't work together. And man, we have a culture that's having a hard time reconciling those three things.
Well, they were sold a lot of lies, and now they're met with a harsh reality.
Right.
And so the gap between those two just keeps
I
getting
watched
wider.
Friends. I want to work in a retail store, have a 4,000 square foot apartment in downtown where it's just not real.
I've been watching Seinfeld. Kramer is unemployed the entire series, and the guy lives in a New York apartment.
Across the hall from a comedian, right?
Gosh, what a sitcom. All right, last one for you, John. This is very close to home. Someone said the majority of Dave Ramsey's financial advice, especially if you're working on paying off debt. The only time you should see the inside of a restaurant is if you're working there. With the student loan crisis as it is, my $20 meal at a restaurant once a month isn't going to make a difference in whether I pay off $50,000 in student loans. I've paid my loans every single month, and right now I owe more than I originally took out 10 years ago, all due to student loan interest. I'm done with the shaming and being told I don't deserve a life or the ability to be out in public. That's right. That's always been Dave's advice. You're not allowed to be out in public, John. Yeah,
Dave's big on shaming people and telling them they don't deserve a life. I think he's in Cabo right now, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so.
Living here.
Last we checked.
I mean, again, this is someone who's struggling and is upset, and I'm not going to be mad.
Well, because to them, all they have in life, John, is this takeout meal. That's it. That's all they're left with. But it's a symbol. It's saying, what are you willing to sacrifice right now that will add up to where you have $500 that month and then $600 the next month to where you can be debt-free one day?
$20 against $50,000. That's right. That's good math. That's not how often people go to restaurants. That also doesn't take into account the hours you could be working instead of sitting in that restaurant, earning more the other way, right? So anyway, there's a whole different conversation here. This is just a tough spirit to work through. And if you have this attitude heading into any problem in your life, you're not going to get it solved.
This fatalistic attitude isn't going to get us anywhere. So we've got to change our attitude, change our behavior, change our thoughts. We're rooting for you all out there. This is The Ramsey Show.